Chapter 6. One Big Cosmic Joke. With the 3 lessons of the morning out of the way, Mason made his way from the main school block towards the sports field. He swung past the cafeteria en route, informing Blaine that he was going to eat his lunch outside. The rain had finally stopped, the strong wind had let up, and the sun was making a surprising appearance. Blaine followed Mason down to the bottom of the field, where a large oak tree stood. During summer, all the pupils flocked to this one particular spot, but in early winter, it was completely deserted. They laid their coats on the ground, next to a trunk to create a dry seat, opened their lunch boxes, and started to eat. This was the ideal place to retreat with the day Mason was having, and it was only Monday. There was a cool chill in the air, but this didn't seem to bother either of the boys. They laid their food out and made the occasional culinary trades with each other as they went. Mason took 3 deep breaths and flared his nostrils, trying to clear out his nasal passages from the stench of the incense. "Miss Cockleton strikes again, I see," Blaine recognized. "You're lucky you don't have art class with me. I'm completely void of art appreciation, but that doesn't stop her lighting up a whole pack of those joss sticks and trying to inspire me." Mason said, "I wish I could swap your brother for you. I would gladly chant and dance around the art room, clanking those finger cymbals." Blaine looked unsure. "I don't know. Last lesson I thought Damien Hirst was a Formula 1 racing driver, and my food tasted of incense for the whole weekend." As the 2 friends continued to eat, Blaine's eyes sparkled, thinking about Saturday night. It was the biggest night of the year, bar Christmas, and was the highlight of the school social calendar. Blaine was turning 15, and his parents were throwing a no-expense-spared birthday party. "You're still coming, right? You haven't forgotten?" Blaine inquired. With all the hype surrounding the event, Mason wasn't allowed to forget, even if he wanted to. Mason decided to ask a stupid question that he already knew the answer to. "I'm not sure. Will Hunter be going?" "Of course he will. It's his party too," Blaine shouted. "Then I may attend, if I'm free," Mason teased, nonchalantly. Unimpressed by Mason's lack of interest for his big day, he made a comparison about his brother and best friend. "You know, you 2 are more alike than either of you realize." Mason coughed, choking on a sandwich, and then waited a moment before swallowing his mouthful. "Have you met your brother?" he gasped. Blaine continued, "If it wasn't for this stupid feud, who knows? Hunter may have become your best friend, and the current situation could be reversed, and we might have been enemies." "Even without the feud, there would still be no doubt that Hunter is an idiot and a complete moron," Mason assured Blaine. "And if he calls me May or Queenie today, I will not be responsible for my actions." Blaine had told his friend time and time again that Hunter meant no offence. If anything, taking time out of his busy schedule to think up nicknames for Mason suggested he liked him. Mason roared with laughter and chuckled, "Oh, well then, Hunter is clearly head over heels in love with me." As the 2 boys laughed under the great tree, dark clouds began to roll over the school, sweeping across like a heavenly curtain, and it started to rain again. "What a pain. Now we're going to get soaked walking back," Blaine said. They saw a couple of silhouetted figures making their way through the haze to meet them. When Mason identified the mysterious visitors, he groaned, "Speaking of pains, your brother's coming." As Hunter grew closer to their location, Mason pondered, how did Hunter know where they were? School was a big place, and with so many people, it was easy to blend in and disappear within the crowds. But every lunchtime, Hunter would find them, even at the bottom end of the school field, hidden from sight. "I swear Hunter's got you GPS'd," Mason informed Blaine. Blaine waved to his brother and said to Mason, "You know what I think? You're kind of right. It must be because we're twins. Even when we were really small, I sucked at hide and seek, because he could always find me." "Hey bro, awesome news. Just got a phone call from the parental units, and they've booked us a band for the party," Hunter boasted. Next to Hunter stood Solomon Burdett. He seemed short standing next to Hunter, but was average height, just like Mason. He had dark skin and very short-shaved hair, but the thing you noticed first about this child was his build. He was built like a tank and made Hunter look like a scrawny beanpole. It was no surprise that he was the school's best rugby player. On the pitch, he was like a train. He started off slow, but when he built up speed, you could feel the ground shake. If you didn't get out of the way quickly, you would be flattened. If you received the ball during a game and saw Solomon hammering towards you, It was common etiquette to drop the ball and get out of the way as fast as you could. Solomon was Hunter's very own private enforcer. Hunter was the law at school, making sure everyone followed orders and no one stood out of line. If they did, the tank-sized boy, Solomon, would steamroll them. Following his leader's fashion statement, he too wore a designer leather jacket. It wasn't as flashy as Hunter's and only cost 1/10 of the price, but it was enough of a difference to separate him from the rest of the kids at school. Solomon's dad was a solicitor and spent most of his time in London. At weekends, Solomon and his mum would journey up to see his father, and every Monday Solomon would be bragging about eating at a celebrity restaurant and what he did during his visit to the Big Smoke. His father was on the point of becoming a partner in the successful firm where he worked, and Solomon knew if his dad landed the position, then they would be able to move away from this sleepy little town to the big city lights. His father would have the means to indulge him, just like the Montero parents spoilt their twins. Mason wished Solomon's father all the luck in the world, not because he liked the Badettes. He knew Hunter would absolutely hate having his second-in-command absent, and he wouldn't be able to intimidate his classmates so easily. "You know, Blaine, you really ought to hang out with a better class of people," Hunter observed. Mason gave Hunter an unimpressed look. "You do know Mason likes to wear a skirt," Hunter continued. "It's a kilt, you imbecile. You know my father's side is Scottish," Mason corrected. "Well, in the pictures you were prancing around in your dress and your mum looked cross and completely ashamed of you." Mason cast his mind back to his cousin Amber's wedding when the photo was taken. He remembered that was the day his mum was exiled by her husband's family and had a face like thunder when the photos were snapped. "How can you tell I was prancing? It wasn't a video," Mason wondered. Hunter's eyes lit up and he laughed. "Ha! So you don't deny it then? You were prancing." Mason stood up and was about to make a step in Hunter's direction. Solomon took a foreboding step towards him. Blaine then got in Mason's way. "So is that all you came to tell me? That we're having a band?" Blaine said. "No, there's something else," Hunter smiled. "Liv told me that Abigail can make the party after all. She likes you, and I know you like her." Blaine looked stunned, and so did Mason. "You never said anything to me," Mason inquired. "I never let on to anybody," Blaine defended. "You can't keep secrets like that from your big bro. You're too predictable and easy to read, aren't you, Flipper?" Hunter teased. Mason saw something in Blaine he had never seen before. Eyes like daggers, Blaine stomped over. Solomon, unsure what to do in this situation, retreated, leaving Blaine nose to nose with his twin. Almost perfect mirror images. Mason was astounded at how two people that looked identical and were raised by the same parents could turn out so differently. Blaine could be trusted with anything, and he had never let Mason down. Mason often felt that the world was on scales. On the one hand, the universe gave him a best buddy, but in order to be allowed this friend, the world would have to balance it out. Mason would have to accept what the universe had in its other hand, Hunter, an arch rival and a complete tool. "Don't ever call me that again," Blaine threatened. As the rain came down even harder, Hunter's smile dropped, and he understood that he had crossed a line. The twins' middle names were Spanish. Hunter Primitivo, meaning firstborn, as he was the oldest by 3 minutes, while Blaine Delfino translated into dolphin. Upon evaluating the duo, Hunter was more determined, stronger and smarter than his brother. Blaine was kind-hearted, and also a high achiever, but when compared to his brother, he was inferior in almost every way. Blaine had nothing against dolphins. In fact, he liked them very much. Every time his family went on holiday and there was a chance to swim with them, he would bug his parents until they gave in and let him. What he did object to was being compared to Flipper, the dolphin from the popular 60s television show. The twins used to watch reruns of Flipper on an obscure satellite channel when they were younger. Hunter thought that Flipper the dolphin was a stupid complacent animal that performed tricks and did whatever it was told, all for treats. Blaine strongly believed he was his own person and was completely unique, even though he had an exact look-alike. The one thing that pushed Blaine's buttons was Hunter's comparison of Blaine to that dolphin, implying that he was an inferior version of him. Hunter was the oldest and therefore in charge. This scenario was the basis for his nickname. If Blaine was a second-rate placid dolphin, then in retrospect, he was a big bad shark. In the pouring rain, the twins were soaked. Mason was kept fairly dry due to the shelter of the great oak's branches, and all was quiet until Blaine finally spoke. "Why can't you two just get along and put the past behind you? I am sick to death of having to defend both of you to each other. Now forget about this stupid feud." Blaine then looked to Hunter, and then to Mason, and back again, as if he was watching a tennis match. Mason surrendered. "Fine, I'm willing to be the bigger man. No hard feelings, Hunter." Mason outstretched his hand in Hunter's direction. Hunter looked at Mason, and after a moment of careful consideration, reached out his hand, and the pair shook to end the stupid rivalry that had consumed them both. As Hunter started to back away, Blaine recapped, "So that's it. Finally, we're good." The pair nodded in synchronization. When Hunter was a few meters away, he looked directly at Mason, opened his stupid mouth and said, "Yeah, it's all good. Well, I used to dream I was a werewolf, but I'm all right now." And as he finished his sentence, he howled. The whole situation had now gone from bad to worse, like trying to extinguish a fire with a bucket of petrol. Mason saw red, but instead of aiming his hostility at Hunter, he turned and shouted at Blaine, "You told him about my sleep howling, didn't you?" Blaine's hands went up. He shook his head. "No, I swear. I never said a word. He seems to know a lot of things, and I don't know where he gets his information from." Hunter and Solomon were now in stitches of laughter. Even though the rain was beating down hard, it didn't dampen their mood, or Hunter's ability to add further insult to injury. "Oh, and Queenie May, it will never be cool between us. If I catch you flouncing around in a skirt at my party, you're going home early." Mason stared back at him. "Hey Hunter, you and me and a party? At your house? You better hope history doesn't repeat itself." Hunter's smile then turned into a sneer. "Or maybe, this time, Your Highness, I'll return your gift with interest. Come on, Solomon, we're done here." The two turned around and made their way back up the field towards the main school block, squelching upon the wet grass as they walked. "I just give up on the pair of you," Blaine said, exhausted. "I honestly thought for a minute we had made a breakthrough." "It's like I said from the very beginning. In each set of twins, there's an evil one," Mason educated. The sports field was now covered in puddles, and Mason's face started to look a bit uneasy. "What, too much surface water?" Blaine noticed. "Yep, way too much," Mason spoke through his grinding teeth, signalling it was time to make it back inside. "Mason, I don't understand why you hate water so much," Blaine speculated. "I love it. I'm happier in the swimming pool than I am on dry land." The boys pulled their hoods over their drenched heads and then followed Hunter and Solomon's course of navigation back to the main building. They too squished the ground as they walked with great trepidation. When they had almost reached the main pathway, Solomon probed for additional details of the feud. "So did he really lose it, attack you and go completely mental?" "What can I say?" Hunter said. "That kid has been nothing but one big freak ever since the day we met."